So we have already discussed the figure of merit for BJTs, which is defined as Ft or omega t, and the relation between Ft and omega t is omega t equal to 2 pi Ft. And then I also have shown the equivalent circuit and derived the beta j omega term, and I've said when beta j omega equal to 1, whatever is the value of omega will be known as omega t. So that way we have got this expression for omega t. So this I already have discussed. So this omega t is actually giving you the figure of merit. I mean, you can use your BJT circuit up to omega t value in the frequency domain. I mean in the range of frequency that I am saying. And then I also have shown you that there is another term called omega beta. Now omega beta is giving you the value of omega, that means the value of frequency at which your beta 0 becomes, or your gain beta becomes beta 0 divided by root 2. I mean it falls by 3 dB. And then the relation between omega t and omega beta is omega t is equal to or approximately equal to beta 0 into omega beta. So if you know your omega t value, you will get to know your omega beta, and both the terms are very important because omega beta will give you the maximum operating frequency, which means up to this frequency your gain will be more or less constant. After that it will start falling. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot operate your BJT or whatever circuit beyond omega beta. You can operate up to omega t, right? However, as a designer, you should know after which value of frequency your gain is going to be reduced. So this is what I have discussed in my previous slides. Okay. Now this is our second device of interest, which is MOSFET. So I already said the prevalent or the highly used or implemented devices are BJT and MOSFET. So I already have discussed different thing about BJT, although the market share of BJT is very less. Market share means very less circuits available, very less IC available which uses BJTs, maybe 4%, 5%, or maybe maximum up to 10%. But still there are few ICs available which uses BJT because BJT can provide few advantages over MOSFET. But as we are using analog circuit along with the digital, ultimately we have to put our circuits using MOSFETs. However, if you are designing something separately, you still can use BJTs. So knowing both the devices is very important. I would say even BJT is not there in the market. A time will come when BJT will not be there. Maybe a time may come. But then also you should learn BJT because BJT is a current control device and MOSFET is a voltage control device. So it will cover both the aspect, current control as well as voltage control. Who knows, maybe in future you will get another current control device which is better than MOS. I mean it may happen that current control device, if at all something comes up, is also good for digital, then it will be the best possible case. Anyways, so in MOSFET, these are the different symbols that you will find in different books or different literature. However, we will use any of those. So generally MOSFETs are of two types. One is enhancement, another one is depletion. And you can also categorize MOSFET in terms of channel, that is NMOS and PMOS. So if you combine, you will find 4 different types. One is NMOS enhancement type, which is symbolized as this, whereas the B means bulk, okay, or someone may say it's substrate, bulk or substrate, okay. So this arrow symbol is towards inside the MOS, Then you have depletion. In case of depletion, we use a kind of band over here just as a symbol. Okay. Then you have PMOS, where the base terminal showing an arrow which is towards outside. Okay. So similarly, you have depletion. There are few other symbols as well. Somebody use this type of arrow just in the source terminal. Okay. So these are different types of symbol. Then this is your MOS device. So it has source, gate and drain. It has also an fourth terminal which is known as substrate. Generally we ground the substrate, just like the substrate terminal or bulk terminal, you can say here bulk as well. Just like the BJTs, we have separately grounded that substrate terminal. If you remember, even in the circuit also I have shown there is a capacitance which is separately grounded. But in here you can also ground, you can connect this bulk with source and put them into the same ground. So we will see as we progress. Okay, so it has a channel. For example, this is NMOS. This is an NMOS. So it is, you have source and drain, highly doped, and plus you have a P substrate. So it forms a channel between source and drain. Then you have an oxide. This layer is oxide. And then you have a metal or polysilicon people use. This is gate electrode. Okay, so if I take only the cross section, you will find this is N plus. Okay, then you have oxide, then you have the gate. Okay, and this is your substrate. So here you have source and here you have drain. This is the cross section. However, 3D image will provide the another dimension which is also known as width. This width is also very important. As we progress, we will see. So this is length as shown in here. So this is what we call the channel length, and this is the width. So both length and width is important. So it's a symmetric device. So if somebody uses drain as source and source as drain, that doesn't really matter because it is completely symmetric. You have N plus here, you have N plus here, right? However, in case of BJT, it was not the case. Your emitter was N plus, your collector was N. So you cannot use in the reverse order. And if you use, I already have shown that you'll see the consequence. Okay. So I already have shown you there is alpha R value. There is a difference in case of BJT, alpha F and alpha R, because you used that BJT in a reverse order. So you will get alpha R value, and these two are generally not. Usually they are not equal. Okay. So if you look at the device closely, then you will find that this voltage is actually controlling the channel current. When you apply voltage in gate, it actually controls the channel. So it creates a field vertically, and that is what controls the current that is flowing horizontally. So the field which is in the vertical direction to that current is actually controlling. That's why it is called field effect transistor. Okay, this is metal, oxide and semiconductor. This is metal, oxide and then semiconductor, then it is field effect transistor. Okay, so that is why it is called field effect transistor. This transverse field is actually controlling your current through the channel. So you will see even more clearly as we progress. So you need at least a minimum voltage to turn on the device, otherwise the device will not work in case of enhancement mode. So here I have shown different possibilities. EM means enhancement mode, DM means depletion mode. So if you look at, let us look at the N channel one. This is what we will use mostly. So if you look at the N channel MOSFET's characteristics, which is VGS by IDS or IDS by VGS, what is this? This is known as transfer characteristics. Why transfer? Because IDS is output, however VGS is input. So it is input to output transfer. Okay, so if you see the characteristics, you will find that initially the transistor is off up to certain level. Then after a voltage, you'll see the current is rising. That means the inversion layer is forming into the channel. This particular voltage is known as threshold voltage. Remember, this is not thermal voltage. We will now onwards we will not use VT as thermal voltage. In this case, VT is threshold voltage. Previously, VT was thermal voltage. I every time mentioned when I used VT previously, but now onwards we'll use VT as threshold voltage. So this is called threshold voltage in case of enhancement mode. But in case of depletion mode, what happens? In case of depletion mode, you already have a channel into the device, even in the off state. So even when you don't have any VGS, when VGS is 0, you'll see some current IDS over there. So this is only possible when it is in depletion mode. Okay, and in order to turn this device off, you actually need some minus VT, some negative voltage, so that the whatever channel formed, it get neutralized, or the current doesn't flow through the channel. So you need a minus VT voltage for the same. Now if you see, in case of N channel, all of them are in first quadrant, right? All of them are in first quadrant. In case of P channel, if you look, it is minus GS, it is minus IDS. That means they are in fourth quadrant. Same thing happens, but the characteristics are in fourth quadrant. That is the difference. Now, how do we define the threshold voltage? The threshold voltage is defined by this equation as shown here, where this phi ms is work function difference between the gate and the semiconductor. This is work function difference, okay, between the metal and semiconductor. Metal means here it is better to write gate, okay. So it's gate semiconductor work function difference. And then you have plus minus 2 phi f. Phi f is the Fermi energy. Now how do you define Fermi energy? KT by Q ln Nd by Ni or Na by Ni. This is written. So it is KT by Q ln Nd by Ni or Na by Ni. Now depending upon whether it is NMOS or PMOS, the sign will change. For PMOS, what will be the value? KT by Q ln Nd by Ni should be negative, and that's why I put both plus minus, okay. But for NMOS, this should be plus. The phi f will be plus. This third term is Q ox, that means the fixed charge in the oxide, divided by C ox, that means oxide capacitance. As you have seen that there is an oxide here, a metal here, and semiconductor here, so it will form an capacitance over here. So this is known as oxide capacitance. How do you define the oxide capacitance? For example, let us take the width of the oxide as T ox, okay. So because of the color, probably it's not very well visible. Let me put it here. Again the cross sectional and plus. This is your oxide, this is your gate terminal, and this is your substrate, you have source, you have drain. Now this thickness, let us say this thickness is Tox. Now your Cox or oxide capacitance will be defined as Eox epsilon ox, that means the epsilon value of oxide divided by Tox. Generally we use SiO2. In this case, this oxide is generally SiO2, where epsilon ox is more or less 4 or maybe 3.9 to be precise. So it's 4 or 3.9, whatever value you can take. However, if you see here, generally what is the expression? C equal to epsilon A by D. So here D is Tox and epsilon is epsilon ox. We did not mention A. So whatever Cox we are getting, it's basically C by A. That means the oxide capacitance per unit area. So here the oxide capacitance is oxide capacitance per unit area. Okay, and then we have another term called QB by Cox. QB is the depletion layer charge, and that value is also either positive or negative depending upon whether it is NMOS or PMOS. For NMOS it is minus QNA by XD, so it's a negative term. So here it is negative, here it is negative, so ultimately it will become positive for NMOS. Okay, so if I write the equation for NMOS, it will be Vt equal to phi ms plus 2 phi f, that is Fermi energy, minus Qox by Cox plus Qb by Cox. This is for NMOS. Sometimes you will find people don't consider this term because Qox value is very small. So many people don't consider this term. So you will find in some book it is written Vt equal to phi ms plus 2 phi f plus Qb by Cox. Qb means depletion layer charge. So this is the value of your threshold voltage. We will not use this equation in the circuit, just to give you an understanding what are the parameters that actually decide Vt, because Vt is a device intrinsic parameter. We cannot have any control over Vt. Even if we want during circuit design that I want to change the Vt, it is not possible. Okay, it's device people's job. So this is more or less what Vt is all about. Now if you look at the IDS versus VDS curve, which is, what is this? This one is output characteristics, because IDS is output current and previously it was VGS, which is input, so it was transfer, but in this case both are output, so we have output characteristics. Now if you see, if your VGS, that means say this is your device, okay, this is your gate, this is source, this is drain, so you generally ground this, so you have some voltage over there, okay, and you have some voltage also over here, okay. So if you put small VGS value which is less than Vt, as I have said, you need at least Vt value to form the inversion layer, otherwise the channel will not conduct. If your VGS value is less than Vt, which is this case, you will have very negligible current. Ideally it should be 0, but in practice you will find there is a very negligible current, and this region is known as cutoff, or off state of, you can also write off state of the MOSFET. Okay, now why there is a very negligible current? Because if you look at the device here, you will find that there are two diodes sitting in this region. So they are just like reverse bias diodes, and for reverse bias diode there is a leakage current. In reverse bias you will find some leakage current. If you remember the diode characteristics. So these two actually give some leakage current which is reflected in here. So it is not equal to 0, however it is very less. Now if you start increasing the VGS, which is above VT, you will find your IDS is also increasing. Okay, and then if you look at the characteristics, if you increase VDS, you will find that your characteristics is first up to a point, it is kind of linear, and then it starts saturating. More or less, it's kind of saturating. So this region is known as linear region. Okay, and this region is known as saturation region. Okay, so we will operate in the saturation region. So this region is more or less a straight line, so somebody may say ohmic in nature. Okay, however we are more interested in the saturation region. Okay, so I have shown here this part is saturation region and this part is linear. However, remember in case of bipolar device, that means bipolar junction transistor, this was saturation. This was known as saturation. Why? Because in that case both the junction, base emitter and base collector, both were in forward bias in this region, so it was saturation. But in case of MOS, this region is saturation. That is one thing that you have to remember. Now similar to the bipolar device, if you extend this towards negative VDS axis, it will touch on VA in the VDS axis, which is known as early voltage, which is similar to BJT. However, remember there is no early effect in MOSFET. Just it's a symbolic kind of. As we have seen in BJT, VA is a early voltage, so we call VA is the early voltage for MOSFET, but there is no early effect as such in MOSFET. Now what is the advantage of getting early voltage? This is output characteristics. So if you have the biasing current known, then you can find out the output resistance just like previous case in BJT. So R0 will be VA by IDS1 wherever it is biased. However, ideally it should be VA plus this value wherever it is biased. For example, say this is VDS1, so it should be VA plus this VDS1. However, it doesn't really matter because your VDD value will be 3 volt, 5 volt, so your VDS1 will be say 1 volt, 1.5 volt, 2 volt, but your VA is very high, say 100 volt. So 100 divided by whatever is IDS 1 and 100 say 1 divided by IDS 1, more or less saying it won't make a difference. So there is no point in considering this and make things complicated. So you can use VA directly. I also have explained the same thing in case of BJT. Again, I am saying here. Okay. So this is what the output characteristics is. By the way, you remember in case of BJT, it was current control device. So what was your input? Your input was current, that is IB. However, in this case, it is voltage control device. So your input is VGS. Now, as that was a current control device, your input resistance will be lower compared to this MOSFET. In case of BJT, your input resistance will be lower. Why it is lower? Because your input resistance is V equal to IR. So in this case, input resistance will be V in divided by I in, if you take the I in this side, and your I in is sufficiently larger in case of BJT because it is current control device. So I in is your input. However, in this case, what is the current? If you look at the device again, here there is an oxide. This is an oxide. I think I have drawn it somewhere. Here it is an oxide, right? So if it is an oxide, how much current will flow? It's in high resistance. So your current is very low. So your input resistance will be much higher compared to BJTs. And why this is important? Because your input resistance is important when you connect two circuits together. That resistance mismatch can lead to a problematic situation. For example, if you have circuit like this, and if the input resistance of this circuit, if you are connecting, and if the input resistance of this circuit, which is R in, which is say very less value, then it will come in parallel to this circuit and it will influence the output of this circuit, which is not desirable. That's why in case of BJTs, using buffer circuit is a usual practice. Buffer circuit is also used in CMOS, but in case of BJT, it is used more. So we use something called buffer. In CMOS also we use. However, in comparison, if you see theory wise, in case of BJT, it is very important to use the buffer circuit. However, in case of MOSFET, you have high input resistance, so it's better, right? So one thing that you understood is CMOS has an advantage in terms of input resistance. So in case of CMOS, the input resistance is higher. However, if you look at this output characteristics for a given biasing, the collector current IC will be higher than that of IDS for a given biasing. Okay, and you know the GM value, which is QIC by KT. So if your IC value is higher, your GM will be higher. If your GM is higher, your gain will be higher, right? So even if your IC is higher or GM is higher, your WT value is higher. If you look at the WT value, which I have discussed, this is the WT value, right, where GM is a factor. So if your gain is higher, your GM, if your IC is higher, then your GM is higher, your WT is higher, so you get a bigger bandwidth as well. So in case of MOSFET, you are getting, in case of BJT, you are getting higher gain, higher bandwidth, and also if as your IC is higher, it's high power. The power is also higher, right? So you are getting all three high. However, in case of MOSFET, the advantage is power is lower. Your input resistance is higher. So these are the advantage. However, the major advantage is power. Ultimately, you think you want to control the power. You want a low power device. If your device is draining very fast, if it takes a lot of power from the battery, it will drain very fast and it is not desirable. Okay, so this is one of the reason. Then this is the operation of MOSFET, wherein IDS is, this is the expression of IDS is given by mu Cox by W by L. I said that W and L both are important. So it is mu Cox into W by L, VGS minus VT into VDS minus half VDS square. Now this VGS minus VT is also known as VOV, that is over voltage, or somebody write V excess voltage, because at least VGS minus VT should be greater than VDS in case of linear mode. Why it should be greater? If you look at the device again, so if you check this equation, then you can write VGS minus VDS is greater than VT from this equation I wrote. Okay, now what is VGS minus VTS? So you have G here, you have D here, so you have connected this to a source, say plus minus. Now VGS minus VDS, this term VGS minus VDS minus VDS, if it is less than VT, what will happen to this portion, this corner portion? It will not conduct. In order to form the inversion layer, this term should be at least greater than VT, right? So that's why in linear mode you need VGS minus VT should be greater than VDS. This is one of the condition. However, if you look at the output characteristics, the linear mode is for low VDS values. Now when VDS value is low, you can neglect this term. So ultimately your IDS will be a linear function of VDS. That is why it is called linear mode. Okay, for low VDS you can neglect this half VDS term. Understand? So that is why in linear mode IDS is more or less linear to VDS. However, if you start increasing VDS, what will happen? Look at this. If you start increasing VDS, in the equation this VDS term will start dominating. In that case, you will find that in here, say your VDS value is increasing. Now if you are increasing this channel will start reducing. So whatever channel length L was there, now it will become to L effective. Because your VDS value is higher, depletion layer will start forming in this zone. So it will keep on reducing. So your L effective will be less than L. And in that case, if you look at the equation, if your L is less, your IDS value is high. So as VDS increases, L is decreasing, your IDS will become high, and that's why you find a slope in this case in the saturation. So this is the equation for the saturation. Just to compensate this, we have a term called 1 plus lambda VDS, because this is a function of VDS. As you increase VDS, this is what will happen. There is a small slope. Ideally this lambda should be 0, which is known as saturation factor. Okay, this lambda should be 0. If lambda is 0, then you will find this characteristics is, let me clear, this characteristics is just flat. And when it is flat, what is your output resistance? This VA, it will never meet, so that means VA is infinite, and your R0 will become infinite, which is the ideal case. R0 is very high, but for that purpose you need lambda should be equal to 0. And there is a relation between lambda and the channel length, which is inversely. So your channel length should be very high. So if your channel length is very high, your lambda will be very small, and in that case you will find that your output characteristics is more flat. So it is giving a high output resistance, which is good. But what is the problem with high channel length? The problem with high channel length is you will reduce IDS value. What is the problem if IDS value is lower? The problem is you will find your GM value, which depends on the output current, QIC by KT, which depends on the output current, will also reduce because your output current is less. If GM is less, your bandwidth is less, your gain is less, so you are losing everything. So it is not like that you can keep increasing the L just to keep the R0 very high. So you are also losing something. So that is what is again like previous a problem. So you have to take care of this. Now if you see that I said that we are mostly using NMOS. What is the reason? Because in case of the output current, you have seen that mu, that is the mobility, is a factor. Now what is the mobility for electron? It is higher than holes, right? The value of mobility for electrons is 600 centimeter square plus Vs, volt second, and for hole it is 200. However, you have found somewhere else that the mobility of electron is around 1350 or say 1500, but these are bulk mobilities, okay? And for mu p it is 500, but these are bulk mobilities. However, in this case it's a surface device, so we will only take the surface mobilities, which is 600 and 200. So this mu value is higher in case of electron, so your device performance will be better. That's why NMOS is preferred.